Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to Respawn Station. My name is Kandula, and today I'm joined once again by my co-host in crime, Nick Sivak. And today
Yo,
we have we're gonna go down memory lane, and also have an in memoriam for a very special expo. If you haven't read the title and you clicked on this blind, then we're not going to tell you what it is until we get there. So now you're in suspense. But no, that's obviously the main the main topic of the show. But before we get into that, we have to ask ourselves a very important question. Nick, what the hell are you playing, buddy? What are you playing?
sure thing. So, this week, as I teased last week, I started Black Ops 4, getting
Yeah,
bit by
yeah,
my Call of Duty bug, and I've put about, I don't even know how many hours in. I played like pretty much every day this week on it.
yeah.
I finished those little like
You finished the
bot
campaign, dude?
match tutorial things.
You
Yeah,
know,
that
no,
we were
you.
talking about last week. Yeah, that dude, those cutscenes were bad. Like,
it's
I
like
don't
it's
need
like
it.
weird, like it's like high fidelity kind of quality. It's almost like, I'm not even like making this like making a jab at anyone. It feels like Final Fantasy cutscenes, like in terms of quality, but like the writing is just like gone. I
It's
mean,
like
is
the
it?
bare minimum
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like make the story work, and like I struggle to even call it a story. It's not much of anything.
yeah. It's
It's
like
just like
small vignettes.
people being like, oh yeah, the mission, and then
Yeah,
we go into
yeah.
AI bot battles. But I did those. I have played a good bit of the multiplayer.
Mm.
I'm like level 20. I'm not sure what the max rank is in
I'd,
Black
ma-
Ops 4, like before
I'd
the
imagine
prestige or
55, right?
whatever.
50, 55, somewhere in there.
Something like that, probably.
Yeah.
So I put some time into that, and then I played one match of zombies last night,
Okay. Okay.
and I tried to play a round of Blackout, and I sat on the searching for game screen for like 4 minutes, and then I was like, all right, I don't think anybody's playing this.
See, I was gonna
So
say, last episode, kind of talk about Blackout some more, and it sucks that you didn't get an actual chance to play it. When I played it, which was probably like two years after it came out, 3 years or something like that.
mm,
I was like the Blackout was still active. I mean, Warzone at the time had come out, but people were somehow still loyal to Blackout, and so I got
mm,
the chance to run around a little bit, and it was like kind of weird and like I don't want to say surreal because it wasn't like I wasn't like having an out of body experience or anything, but it was like weird to see all the Black Ops 2 maps and like because it's essentially like Blackout. The map for Blackout is a piecemealed version of like other Black Ops maps. So
mm.
I like turbines there. I know I remember very vividly, and I think even the like the little yacht from Hijack is somewhere on the map. So it was cool to like play through that for the first time and go through those areas again and be like, whoa, this is like what I used to play. This was my old stomping
Mhm.
grounds. But yeah, it sucks. I mean, I'm not surprised, but it sucks that it's not that active.
Yeah, it was just like a loading screen for a bit. That you mentioned having the maps on Blackout, but that's also something that kind of surprised me, but shouldn't have surprised me with the multiplayer. Was like half the maps that I played on are all old Black Ops maps. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, there was like firing range
Dude,
and
okay.
jungle and Nuketown. Like,
Well, I mean, look,
that was really funny.
I'm going to say like this is your kind of quote unquote like review, right? Like we're like this. You've put the time into the game. We're talking about it, right? Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
more or less.
yeah, okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure before I started, like, because like I said, I did also write about Black Ops 4, and I didn't want to like start like pulling quotes or whatever. If we weren't kind of breaking down this game, because I do think it's so bizarre to me that Black Ops 4 came out the way it did. Because I mean, we kind of discussed this last episode, but to kind of get into it, like, I don't understand why Treyarch thought that a series that is known for its story, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, people are fine without the campaign. Actually, like that was such a bizarre choice for me. But for some reason in my head, I was like, just looking at everything that was on the table with Black Ops 4, with as you were saying, the maps that you've kind of had seen before, and like this lackluster campaign that was just like it's just like a few multiplayer stuff. I thought that that was the perfect time for, if there was ever a time to be like, hey, let's dial it in, let's just kind of do an easy, a softball, whatever, a Black Ops Classic Collection or something. I thought that was or Greatest Hits, Black Ops Greatest Hits or whatever, where it has like Black Ops 1 and 2. I believe on the 360 you could actually buy them as a 2-pack. I don't know if you remember, it was like a split cover that I
You can
remember.
do them as a 2-pack, and they actually do have a 3-pack with the Black Ops 3 ones also.
Oh wow, yeah, I forgot Black Ops 3 was also on the 360. But yeah, no, so something like that, but like remastered, or like kind of given the Modern Warfare remastered treatment or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would be such a safer bet, because you have things that you are good. In terms of like a good campaign, and also multiplayer, that like maps that people really like. But instead, I mean, like, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I want to go back and forth. I don't want to.
Yeah. So, just in general, as far as Call of Duty games go, Sri, I haven't looked over your review probably since you put it out, but
Yeah.
man, this is a weird Call of Duty game.
Yes.
I don't know if you agree on that or not, but like, this is like, from every element of it, I'm just like, well, at least they tried something new, I guess. You can give them
Right.
credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so weird. I mean, is this the only one that doesn't have like regenerating health in the game? Because I don't remember any of the other ones except for like maybe
World.
the old one.
I think World War II, right? World War II had the you had to pick
Uh,
up.
yes, you're right. You did have health kits in that one.
Yeah.
So I guess there was like an established like precedent for that. But that was really weird at the start, just like not having regenerating
Yeah. No.
health. That was
Yeah.
something that I had to, work out and get over. But like the weird light hero shooter elements with like, special abilities is like it feels just, it doesn't feel like Call of Duty, but the gunplay feels like Call of Duty. So
Oh.
it's this really
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
mix that I find while I'm playing. The sound design I think is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The visuals are nice, but I kind of struggle saying that this game has like a really unique art style. It kind of
Yeah.
feels a bit just like generic sci-fi to
It's
me at
not
least.
quite Crackdown 3 for me, but it is erring more on the side of that than like a Black Ops 2 or 1 for me.
Right, like the thing with the like future Call of Duty
The
games,
future is black.
like, I know that this may not be like a popular opinion or whatever, but like, so far of the ones that I've played, I vastly prefer Infinite Warfare, the one that's just like straight up like we're just like space Star Wars Call of
Sure,
Duty
with
with like
with
space
Kit
frigates
Harington in it.
and
Yeah.
yeah, all of that stuff. Because like, I played that, and like the levels have that Call of Duty spectacle, but just like set in the backdrop of space. Like, I think back of like, one of the opening missions where there's like, a frigate crashing into the water and there's a
Yeah. Yeah.
massive tidal wave that comes, or like a mission where you're like sneaking through an asteroid belt. Like, it has those
See,
like
Infinite Warfare, I think,
fundamentals.
is a game that kind of to I think the point we were talking to like 5 episodes ago now, about kind of well, at the time we were talking about Ubisoft games, but
Mhm.
trying new things, like retiring IPs essentially is what we're talking about. And I think that like Infinite Warfare for me was the game that should not have been a Call of Duty game. You know what I mean? Like it had like,
Mhm.
if not for the fact that it had a name called Call of Duty, I would not have thought it was Call of Duty. And I was been like, this is just a crazy, just balls to the walls, like high budget sci-fi game, and like it's cool. Like I mean, it would have been,
Mhm.
I would have, because I mean, obviously, Infinite Warfare is famous, or rather infamous, for the launch where the trailer had like this just like incredibly bad dislike rate. It was like one of the most disliked
Mhm.
game trailers of all time for a
I
while.
think it was for a bit there, wasn't it? Like the most disliked video on YouTube. I
Yes,
thought I
yeah,
remembered
yeah.
that specifically. Yeah,
And
that was crazy.
And I think that was because people have an idea for what Call of Duty is, and it was at the peak of people were like, "Please, we don't want another futuristic Call of Duty," and they're like, "Hold
Mhm.
on, hold
It's like,
on,
yeah, hold
we
my
can,
beer. Here's 300 years later.
yeah, we could do one better." But talking about Black Ops 4 though, so here's my chonky final paragraph for this game. I think that we can kind of dig into a few things here for this conversation. So, quote, like I said at the start, I've been sitting on this article for a while now because I don't know how to end it. I can't deny that Black Ops 4 does a lot in terms of delivering a polished game, but it doesn't feel like a full package. Specialist HQ delivers a disappointingly small dose of the story that doesn't live up to the wild rides of Black Ops stories of the past. Multiplayer is boots on the ground, but the lack of balance for the Specialist makes it an often frustrating affair. Battle Royale fits nicely with the classic Call of Duty gameplay, but with a lack of Specialist bonuses, Blackout remains the most balanced multiplayer experience offered in the game, given that you aren't given scumbags for teammates, which I do remember, by the way, playing with, and very frustrating. Anyway, back to this. And despite my lack of nostalgia for Call of Duty Zombies, I still enjoyed Black Ops 4 Zombies. I can confidently say that its wildly complex Easter eggs will definitely keep fans entertained for hours. At the end of the day, though, I still think that Black Ops 4 was a missed opportunity, considering how many old maps are on the Black Ops 4 roster, both in multiplayer and scattered across the map in Blackout. I would have much rather gotten a Black Ops Greatest Hits featuring a remaster of Black Ops 1 and 2, but as it stands now, Black Ops 4 feels less like a sequel and more like a tribute to better times.
Yeah, there's a lot of that I do agree with. The
Zombies.
Yeah, I want to talk about zombies real quick because
Yes.
I have a bit of a history with zombies. I forget if I just told you this off air or if this was in an older podcast, but back in like peak high school like
Yeah.
Call of Duty years, right? Around the time Black Ops 1 was out, that was like my super hardcore into zombies, like playing it every day,
Uh-huh.
all this other stuff, getting the DLC maps, playing all that. So much to the point that I basically, from that point on, burned myself completely out of zombies. And anytime I was asked to play zombies, I was just like, I just don't have it in me. Like,
Sure.
it's too
Yeah,
boring
yeah.
to me now. Um, but I wanted to hop into this because I was like, you know what? It has been a really long time since I've played zombies, and I was
Yeah.
like, these are brand new maps. Like, I can maybe try to see what's changed and what stays the same. And my initial instinct, because I'm coming from Black Ops 1 zombies mainly, right? I
Right.
played a lot of World at War zombies also back in the day, but Black Ops 1 mainly to Black Ops 4. And it's like, I was like, oh my God, there's like elixirs and like
Yeah.
teleporting
Yeah.
across the map. I have to go find this artifact on the map to open different doors that you don't open with points. The perks look completely different. You can like set what perks you want to
Yeah.
show up in a level or something on like the character select screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, this is a little bit overwhelming for me just jumping back into this again, especially by myself, right? Like I didn't have,
Right. Right.
a group
No.
of friends
Yeah.
or
I also
anything
played it
hopping in.
pretty much solo.
Yeah, and like you could add bots in, and so I was like, oh, that's kind of neat because I remember anytime you wanted to do solo, it was like hard solo. Like you don't have any bots or anything as
Yeah.
far as I remember in the older ones. And so like I threw some bots in and was just kind of messing around. And I played the I think it was called Voyage of Despair. It's the
Yeah.
one that's on like the Titanic.
Yeah. The
And
Voyage of Despair. So the
the
game has I think it's called 11, right? It's XI and Blood of the Dead and Voyage of Despair. There's a base game, and then there's like additional zombie DLC maps that you can get.
mhm. um the the theming I thought was interesting,
Mm.
and that's kind of the thing that you had brought up a couple minutes ago with the um oh man, what was the point you had made about the theming? Well, basically, like it's interesting. Oh, it was you said that Infinite Warfare didn't feel like a Call of Duty game, right?
Oh
It
yes, yeah.
should have been like a separate thing. That's kind of how like I picture zombies, where it's like they were. It had a very high production value, and it was a very like interesting cutscene of them like doing this like almost heist or whatever on the Titanic to steal this thing,
Yeah.
and then all the zombies start like breaking out and everything, and I'm like, this is thematically nothing like Call of Duty. Like
Isn't
the
it
only
so?
thing that
Isn't there's like some like Black Ops lore that it's like the whole Black Ops zombie story is like kids playing with toys? Isn't there something like that? That's why there's like it's so wildly like
maybe
because like if
like
I remember like the XI, yeah, okay, yeah, the 11 or XI, I'm guessing it's called 11. It's like a gladiator map, like it's like a gladiator arena,
mhm,
and yeah, it just feels like totally like out of the blue. Like even like the zombies are obviously themed for that area too. Um,
mhm.
but yeah, I totally see what you're saying because it does. You don't see like it doesn't feel like it fits together, but I think it's supposed to be like they gave themselves an out. I think, though I could be
Right,
wrong.
yeah,
Feel free
like
to let me know.
they're super creative, and for a while that's probably why I was so into it in Black Ops 1, because you
Yeah,
had like the Call of the Dead map, which was kind of like that was the one with George Romero on it, and there was like Ascension, which was like black and white until you put the power on. It seemed like all the style and the interesting stuff of Call of Duty
right.
back then was being put into zombies. And
Yeah,
I think I did mention this like last week or whatever, but I was like, you know, it'd be interesting if they spun that out into its own just like AAA game and like kind of leaned into that more. But like I also get where it's like maybe it does work better as a companion piece to like the more militaristic like campaign or like standard kind of multiplayer
right.
that you get with Call of Duty. But yeah, like I played like to round like 15 or 16, and then I ended up dying. And
Well, Nick,
I
I was gonna
probably will
say
still.
for on I was just kind of skimming through my my old review and
Mhm.
for on that map on the gladiator map I made it to level 31 or round 31. That was the highest round I could make it to.
Nice.
So I challenge you, Nick. Should you dare try to beat level
It's
31?
funny that you say that because I texted a couple of my buddies that used to play zombies with me last night when I was doing it,
Yeah.
and we had this one friend who basically like round 30 was always the goal.
Uh-huh.
And he would always be like, Nick, we got to get to round 30. We got to get to round 30 when I was like, starting to get tired of it and everything. And I was just like, man, I don't want to be sitting here for 2 hours playing zombies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's funny that you got the 31. I will try. I do still want to play at least the other two maps, give them at least a
Yeah. Yeah.
try.
Sure.
But
They're worth checking out. Yeah, overall, I
yeah, like
mean, what would you give it? I'll tell you what my rating was out of 10 on our scale. What would you rate Black Ops 4?
I I still want to play it some more, so it's not a fully definitive
Sure,
thing. But
sure. You
like,
don't have
I
to. I
would
locked mine in, but you
probably
don't have to lock yours in.
do. Are we using what I would realistically give it, or using our review scale? What I
Our
would give
review
it?
scale.
I would probably give it a 7 then.
Oh, really? Wow. I gave it a
Yeah,
6. I gave it a 6. I said it's decent. 6 is decent.
yeah. If that's the case, then I'll probably do 6 as well.
Because
Because
on our scale, it's 10 is masterpiece, 9 is excellent, 8 is great, 7 is good, 6 is decent, 5 is mediocre. I'm not going to go further below that, but you get it.
gotcha.
So I think 6.
Yeah,
I give it a 6. I think it's decent. It can get by. I mean, again, it has the production value. It has the sound. All that stuff is there. It's just like it feels very bare bones.
yeah, I agree. Like I'm having like it's scratching that itch. Would I say like I'm having a great time playing it? Probably not. Like it's just kind of scratching that Call of Duty multiplayer itch that I had. And like case in point, just to kind of put a bow on this, I was on the receiving end of one of the biggest blowouts I think I've ever had in Call of Duty the other night.
Yeah.
Uh, and again, I'm a little suspicious if there isn't some malicious hacking going on in this game or not. But basically, it was a team deathmatch. The games go to 100 in this game,
Yeah.
and basically, my team got 10 kills, and the opponent team got 100, and I
Wow.
got 4 of those 10 kills.
Wow.
So
Damn.
that
Carrying
was
the
one of
team, Nick. Carrying the team.
that was one of the biggest blowouts I've ever seen in one of these games, and I just kind of laughed at the end of it. I was just like, man, that was not
Yeah,
great.
you gotta laugh that one off. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Nick, right before this podcast, right before we started streaming, you were playing a game. What game? What game was that?
This is I'm having an Activision week, I guess.
Yeah, dude, you're
The
you're,
other
you're
game,
getting paid for this, man.
I'm not, unfortunately. They should though. They should pay me with a new game in this series. But
Yeah, there you go.
the the game I've picked up again is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2.
On the
Um,
Nintendo Switch this time.
yeah, on the Switch, funny enough. um, Basically, I had some, you know, time out of the house this week, and so I was looking for something to play while I was out, and so I grabbed my Switch, and I was like, well, it's something quick that I can throw on and drop at a moment's notice. And Tony Hawk fit the bill, and kind of how I approach Switch games, right? Like I'll buy the Nintendo first party stuff and I'll play that.
Yeah.
I'll buy some indie games on Switch. That's usually like my preferred platform. Occasionally, I'll get them on, Steam or PlayStation. Like I'm not super picky when it
Yeah.
comes to indies, but Switch, I do think it's like Switch can usually handle
And
anything
yeah, it
I
can
want
run
to
those.
play.
Yeah.
And then the other category are like my third party games that I would be like, you know what, even if it's a compromised version, I'd like to have that in the back pocket in case like I would have to go somewhere and like really have the itch to play like BioShock
Sure.
like out of the
Sure.
house, right?
I was
So
gonna say, like, I mean, Doom comes to mind. Do you have Doom on the
I
Switch?
don't. It's
Mm,
it's mainly like BioShock Collection, Tony Hawk, and I think I have like one other one.
mm, okay,
But
that's fair. There's not a lot
uh
of games that the Switch can, run as a good
right.
alternative. Yeah.
But Tony Hawk, to speak highly of that one, like yes, the visuals are a downgrade compared to the other versions,
Hmm.
but they do have it running pretty much at 60 FPS on
Oh
Switch.
wow,
So it's like
nice.
it's it's a pretty good port of that game. And yeah, like I just was picking it up on before we started recording. You mentioned that I obviously had the platinum trophy in it on PlayStation because it was my game of the year in 2020 when it came out. I absolutely love this remaster remake collection,
Yeah.
and uh, I knew I was never going to probably replicate that again because the grind to the max level is like kind of insane. Like it takes a long time,
Hmm.
but I already had all the goals and everything done. But I was like, you know what? I don't have all the stats for all the skaters, so I just started chipping away at that, and I've just kind of kept playing it this week. So uh, basically, how it works, just as a really brief rundown, is
Hmm.
you select a skater, and every level has like 2 to 4 stat points hidden in it,
Right.
kind of like collectibles. And basically, you just skate to these spots, collect the skill point, and then you can add a skill. You can add a point into one of a bunch of different categories, like flip speed or ollie height, that sort of a thing.
Hmm.
And because I did that all on PlayStation, I had a good idea of like where all of those spots are because basically they have like preset locations and there's only really like 2 sets of them. So you once you've done it like, 20 times, you kind of know where all the
Right.
points are going to be at. And so I basically have it down to a science where I can get all the stat points from every level within like, 10 minutes or so. So basically, you can just kind of run through this game, and uh, it's just fun to play. So just riding around, getting these stat points, like it still feels engaging in that way for me personally,
Yeah.
and it gives me that weird, like checklist mentality where it's like, okay, there's, my sixth out of like 25 skaters that are max stats, and then whenever you're done, it's like, oh, I can pick any one of these, and I know that they're performing at the highest level, everything. So
We
it's
got we
just
got
kind
to
of
get
been a
you a
fun.
new skating game, Nick. I mean, if you just got off roller drum and you're like right back into Tony Hawk, I mean, we need to get you something new.
I do have something in my backlog that will
Uh,
be in the same sphere, which is Jet Set Radio.
oh
I've
right,
not played
sure.
those, and I have,
Have you
a
have you
friend of
played
ours,
Sunset
James.
Overdrive? It's not really the same, but have you?
What's funny about that, Tree? Guess what game I just installed on Steam the other day?
Wow, Sunset Over. Wow.
Sunset Overdrive. So that might be coming on a future podcast here because I might be hopping into that. I'm in a weird spot with my games right now,
Let,
Sri,
let me
where
know
I'm
if you
kind of
hop into that one. I might. because I mean that's one I've I've played like the start of it multiple times because like I just like it was at a time where I was just kind of like playing games with other people on the couch, so we just like, oh, let's just start a
Mhm.
new game, and then we'd start, and then we get an hour in, and then we start and get an hour in. Anyway, regardless,
Yeah, I'm in a weird spot with mine right now where it's like I'm playing like my multiplayer and getting my like short game kind of
yeah.
fix in, but one of my next big ones, I think, probably when I hop back into Evil Within, I might also try Sunset Overdrive.
Hmm.
We'll see.
How long is that Sunset? I mean, I probably estimate like 15,
Yeah, I
16.
think I looked it up. I think it's in that like 15 to 20 hour range. Not nothing
Yeah,
too crazy.
yeah, that makes sense.
Dude, what
Now,
have you been playing?
ooh, if you are a frequent Twitter user, you might have seen this game going around that's essentially a first or third person shooter where you play as action figures, and it's like you're to scale, so you're a tiny little action figure running through like the shelves of a grocery store, or like the under like a teenage kid's bed or something, like that. Like
Mhm.
you might have seen that, especially if you follow Xbox, because there's quite a few Xbox posts where the top comment underneath it or top response is from the game we're going to talk about today, which is Hypercharge Unboxed. Now, this game was on PC, but it just made the leap onto Xbox, which is where I played it. Now, as of right now, as when we're recording this, the game's been out for 5 days, but I've actually been playing it for about 2 weeks, and talked to Nick about it because I've had to keep my mouth shut for a long time about this game, and now that the embargo is lifted, and I can finally say this is such a unique game. So first of all, to explain, I've put about like 7 hours into this game at this point, and there's a few. There's not a lot on offer, but there's like everything that's offered is really kind of, I think, well thought out. So there's a single player mode where you can play through or what they say the campaign, but it's really the campaign is just playing through all the levels with like bot companions, or you can put in like real people, like local or online multiplayer if you want to as well. But it's surviving. It's a survival mode, but you have to survive for like 3 to 5 rounds essentially, and then at the end of that 3 to 5 rounds there's a boss, and during those 3 to 5 rounds you can explore the map again, first or third person, and collect secrets and kind of accomplish tasks and stuff and objectives. And then once all those waves clear, you get to you get a rating, and it says like of all of the objectives you did, you did this and this and this, etc.
Mhm.
So that's at the very kind of bare bones, and that's actually because we were again lucky enough to get the game early, but I didn't have any, I don't really know anyone else in the industry that is playing the game, so I didn't have anyone else to play with. So for the most part, I was playing that leading up to pre-release on Xbox. But now that the game is out and out in the public for the last 5 days, I've actually been hopping on for just regular multiplayer, and that's the other kind of half of the content base here is just multiplayer game where there's team deathmatch, there's free for all, there's infected and capture the king of the hill or stuff like that. There's like 5 game modes, and you can kind of hop in, hop out, assuming that there's people playing. Depending on what time of day you hop on, at least where I am, like you don't always find a game, you don't always find a server that's active. But that being said, ultimately I've gotten into quite a few games, and once I get into a game, you can kind of stay in that lobby as long as that lobby isn't disbanded. You can kind of just stay in and keep playing it. But with that very kind of brief description, and I'm not going to get into the story because it's not like worth the like. It's very simple. Like before each level, there's a comic book panel story with like narration that kind of sets the stage, and then you kind of get into the gameplay. So
Gotcha.
very simple. Nick, if you have any questions about like if I'm not explaining anything properly, feel free to just interject and ask.
Yeah, sure.
But to talk about my actual opinions, though, right off the bat, I never knew I wanted a game like this. Like, you know, I mean, it wasn't like a thing that I was like, oh, I want a game where I play as an action figure and just kind of run around like scaled, you know, like environments. I find like the change of scale is so interesting and fun to see here, and playing this game like so often just made me like just relax. You know, I was just kind of like, I'm chill. You know, I'm just kind of playing. I just kind of get lost in it. And literally today, right, I was streaming the game to just kind of showcase the game for anyone who was interested in it. If you are, I'll leave a link down in the description to the video or to the stream. But I was not joking when I like, you know, finished the first kind of level that I played, and then I looked at the time and I went, oh my God, I've been live for 40 minutes. And I didn't know because I was just having fun playing the game and I was just kind of in the zone.
That was one game.
That was one match that was like five waves.
Gotcha. So yeah, they can kind of
can last.
Like,
and again,
are they on the longer side, would you say?
Well, so it's so weird because again, I didn't do too. I maybe talked for like 5 minutes beforehand, before the stream, you know, before I got into the gameplay or whatever, and I did like some stuff like that. But like, yeah, the 5-1. Oh, and also I should also say, between rounds, between each wave, you have a build phase. When you're playing through the survival mode, and the build phase gives you like, you know, like essentially if you don't skip it, which I didn't skip because that's you know, you have to use the build phase to explore the map and, you know, kind of complete the side objectives, which are like, you know, jump from this part of the map to this part of the map, you know, in this, like, you know, certain time, or you know, put a sticker on the wall or something like that. So yeah, so I don't skip the build mode, so that definitely adds to, like, it pads out that time. But yeah, the 5 waves was took somewhere around like at least 30 minutes, and then there's also
I'm sorry, put a sticker on a wall. It just made me laugh.
No,
it sounds like such a video game, like random challenge. Like, yeah, just go throw a sticker on the wall. Like,
yeah, pretty much. And well, and here's the thing: the objectives are so like just. They are pretty random, you know. It's just like, you know, jump from here to here. It's not like they feel very kind of, yeah. I said it, random. I can repeat myself there, but at the same time, they give you another reason to go back. I mean, like the first time around, especially when I was first starting, because the controls for the game, like I'm playing on standard controls, and it's not like, so obviously left trigger is to aim, but you don't really aim down sight. You just kind of like zoom in a little bit, you know. And then R2, our like right trigger is to fire, but then to reload is right bumper, and left. I don't even know what left trigger is, but like to punch, it's, you know, R3, and then B is to change the camera perspective, so from first person to third person.
okay.
So it's just like weird kind of controls and stuff like that. But you know what? I adapted to it. I got used to it, and it kind of plays to kind of compare the gameplay. It feels and plays a little bit like Halo. There's a lot of that like Halo sensibilities to it. Like and I do think that part of what they're going for here is, you know, this action figure come to life, you know, toys to life themed Halo-esque shooter, you know, because I mean, even in the multiplayer, right, when you're playing team deathmatch, which is what I primarily got into. I got into a few games of Infected as well, but mainly deathmatch and team deathmatch is what I play. And when team deathmatch, the two teams, like there's two teams, it's red and blue, and they're both like fully red and fully blue, like plastic toys almost is what they look like. My one note for that though, what'd you say?
Like Green Army Men or something.
Essentially,
like
and you do actually fight Green Army Men, like as
nice.
part of like the enemies that come in. You also fight like Beyblades, like unmarked Beyblades, and
oh, weird.
Yeah, like robots and bouncy balls. Like so, there's like essentially you're being attacked by toys, and there is. I mean, I didn't say I was going to get into the story. Essentially, there's like some toys are like turning evil because like someone's turned evil. It's pretty simple story. You just have to protect the hypercore. That's what you need. That's the important part of the story that you need to know. But anyway, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought
The
as well.
red and blue teams in multiplayer.
Yes, the one thing I would like, there's a few things I think the game could kind of improve or kind of update through. The one thing is especially when you're playing first person, like there's like a shit ton of camera shake, and you can kind
Ooh.
of turn it down a little bit, but like even then it's not like it's still there. And then when battles get really intense, multiplayer or single player, I can't sometimes tell if it's dropping frames or if like the camera is shaking, so I'm like just kind of perceiving like dropping frames. Like so, I think that needs some fine tuning.
That's something that I noticed with Black Ops 4 also, is that the camera bobs like crazy when you're
Yeah,
running, and there's no toggle for that. And that's something I've been more perceptive of in games recently. And like it doesn't usually like get me to the
yeah,
point of like getting sick, but it's just like, you start running and you're just like, oh my God, like why is
yeah.
earthquake mode
And,
going on?
and to divert quickly, just to I mean, this happens all. It's not new for the podcast for me to divert real fast, but I'll keep a pin on what I'm saying here. But last episode we were talking about X Defiant and how that game has like this kind of jumping meta where people kind of jump constantly.
Mhm.
According to Mark Rubin on Twitter, who's in charge, at the top of the game for X Defiant, essentially there is a jump anti-jumping thing in the beta, but it made people nauseous. I don't know if I said that last episode. I don't know if I found out about that.
Weird.
But yeah, because in the beta and like that, like essentially like because the limitation was the more you jumped, it slowed down your camera and like kind of restricted your movement. So I guess that like slowed
Oh.
down like movement kind of messed with people. So that's why it's not in the final game, but they did say that it's going to come back, which is like I never would have thought. Like I don't know, for some reason that was never would have
Yeah.
never crossed my mind. To,
Yeah, that's interesting.
but back
And
to
I guess
this.
it depends on your implementation
Yeah, yeah,
if that
yeah,
can
really.
happen.
But back to this. So another change along with the screen shake, another thing that I think the game could use is in team deathmatch, instead of just having pure blue and pure red, you can keep the characters blue and red, but like the gun, I feel like the guns should still look like what they look like, because like when you pick up like on the ground, when you see them laying around, they look like they're regular models, colored to be like what they look like. But when you pick them
Mhm.
up in team deathmatch, it turns to like the red or blue, whatever color you are. And I don't know.
Mhm.
I feel like it would have that it would have been a nicer touch. At least me. Feel free to let me know if you think otherwise in the comments. But with all that said, I think I've covered kind of the general gist of what's available. Oh, and there's also like just like quirky little like party games in the extras menu. Like they just threw in like essentially like essentially like a Beyblade type of game where it's like a arena battle between a bunch of spinners, and then a tank game, which was like a nice touch. Just like hey, just a free thing to a bonus on top of it. And I should emphasize, by the way, that all of this is $30 on Xbox.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure what the PC price is, but so it's definitely not a full price game. And for me, speaking from my own experience, like I said, I felt so like kind of just light, and I enjoyed the experience of playing this game so much that while on one hand I do think that it's a little light in terms of like what it's offering. Mainly I say that because I think a full-fledged campaign would have served like really nicely. I think like even the setup here, the vocal performances are nice too. So like the setup and everything is good. I would just love to see cutscenes and and kind of more immersive storytelling there. And I would have gladly paid full price for I'd $60 for that kind of package. But that being said,
Mhm.
even when you look at this as a $30 game in an industry where you're getting $60-$70 games that have battle passes and are trying to sell you like upsell you on stuff and microtransactions. This game it does feel a little refreshing because there's no microtransactions. You pay $30 and you get everything, like everything you're gonna get, you get. And it's your kind of job to play the game, unlock the stuff that you already have. Like They're stuff that you paid for. You just have to, earn the right amount of rewards to unlock the corresponding maps and stuff. And because it's so easy and light and breezy, feel free to quote me, game. You can use that quote. But because of that, it's such an easy game to pick up and play. And like you can hop in, do one round, and after that like 30-minute game of a level, I played the next one I played was 3 waves, and I didn't really spend that much time on the builds, and it ended in like 10 minutes. So totally different, and it also depends on how hard I guess you find the boss. So I can only imagine how much more fun this game would be if you had a bunch of friends, like how used to do with when I had friends playing Call of Duty Zombies, back in the day, or how Nick was saying. If you have someone if you and your friends are looking for a game to get into, right? This is, for 2 people, you can get, for one full game's price, you can get copies for 2 people, and you guys can play together. And I think that's a pretty good deal, especially because you'll want to play it. You can get really just kind of lost in playing through the various levels and even just exploring them. And despite the multiplayer kind of being what I'm going to be playing mostly from now on, just everything here is so lighthearted and pure. Does that make sense? Like it feels very like authentic. It doesn't feel like it's bloated and has 30-minute like CGI cutscenes for the sake of having it with lazy writing. I'm not to be pointed.
Yeah. I pulled it up on Steam, and apparently it's $25 on Steam.
Oh shit! Okay.
But there is a demo, so people can download that as well.
And there is crossplay in this too, by the way.
Yeah, I think the art style definitely carries it, and leans into that lighthearted, more whimsical feel. And I think people do want a more simplified, multiplayer game like this that doesn't have all the live service trappings in it. I think the real test though is how long people will stay around.
That's the thing. Like yeah, and the game, I believe they said as of earlier today, I think it was like sold 50,000 copies. So really cool, and I think they're also hit top 10 on the top paid games on the Xbox Marketplace. So really, congratulations to the team. I know that this was like something really big for them, and congratulations on that success. And yeah, I'm curious to see the legs on this game, because especially with something like this, obviously they do have that split screen and the single player stuff that is there so that you can play by yourself, but it would just suck to like lose out on the multiplayer entirely. Like fast forward 6 months, like how does it look for this game? I'm not sure, and I know some people are gonna just jump to this conclusion. I don't know if putting it on Game Pass is always the solution. I don't know, and also because this game has no like microtransactions or monetization schemes in it, like you can't make it a free to play game, because then they'd have to redesign the game essentially to make it work.
Yeah.
So support the game. If again, I really do mean that as a recommendation. If you're here to see like, hey, like what is Hypercharge Unboxed, I hope I did a decent job explaining it at you. I threw a word blast of everything that I can talk about this game, and if you have any interest in it, I do recommend picking it up. Then I don't have anything else to say about it. So, with that, we can now move on to the news.
The news. No one likes the news.
Oh my god, the first one. Yes, let's talk about it. I just looked at it. Oh, snap.
Yeah, so kind of a weird news week. It's a little quiet because we're in the calm before the storm.
Yes, yeah.
This coming week with all the showcases and everything. But there are some things to talk about. And the first thing that you're alluding to was, I believe, a show revealed last night.
Yeah,
yeah. Prime Video announced that they have a Like a Dragon Yakuza 6-part show that's airing later this year.
Didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, there is Yakuza slash Like a Dragon has been adapted to live action before. I
Oh,
think in like the mid 2000s or something. Like there's like an
wow.
older movie
Interesting.
that was made in Japan, and this is seemingly also going to be in Japanese primarily because they, you know, in a little write up of info I saw, there's a talk about it having like supporting like 30 subbed and dubbed
Oh,
languages, I
wow.
think.
Yeah.
So, but I also saw again grain of salt on this one because I don't have a source or anything on it. I just saw online people saying that it's supposed to follow loosely the first game.
Oh,
So
okay.
um, I'm sure with how Yakuza games and sorry, it's like a dragon. It's not
Yeah.
Yakuza anymore. I need to
Yeah. Yeah.
slap my wrist on that. But with like a dragon games, like clearly they can go anywhere and do anything. So how close it sticks to that first game versus getting interested in any number of side activities and interesting characters will remain to be seen. But obviously, Amazon's riding high on Fallout, so
Yeah. Yeah. I can see why they got this news out like so early because they want to capitalize on that while they can for sure. Um,
mhm.
I have not. Have you played one of those like a dragon games?
I have not. I have a bunch of them, and I've been telling my one friend who has played a lot of them. I think he's played all of them. I told him I was like, this year is going to be the year where I do Yakuza Zero because Yakuza Zero is
That's like
kind
a
of the one
hundred
where like
hours, isn't it?
I mean, most of them are.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that.
fair. That's fair.
It's one of those series that's like kind of a big time
So
commitment
it's
to
it's
get
like
into.
in my head, I know they're not anything similar in gameplay, but in my head, I do it to like Persona. Like they're like those two.
I
Uh,
think that's honestly kind of a fair
yeah,
comparison. Like, yeah, definitely. But yeah, Zero's like a fan favorite one, and I don't know if it's the earliest point in the series. I think it
I
is,
think it
but
is. Or no, no. I guess technically Ishin is.
oh, okay,
You know,
yes,
if we're getting technical,
Tec-
Nick.
yes. Technically speaking, yes, it would be Ishin,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I,
the
I
other one
I've
that we
heard
still don't
people
have
say
here,
that
but
the newest like was it like not not
Infinite Wealth, I think, is
yeah, the Infinite
the most
Wealth, but then
recent
there was
one.
one right before that. It was like the first Like a Dragon one that came out. Like
It was the man who erased his name was the one before it, I believe.
ah, see, one of those I've heard like the new ones is actually like the best one to get into to introduce you into the game. But it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, they've been a real big supporter of Game Pass, and I mean they've also been remastering so many of the games in the series. So even the ones that are on like the PS2 and stuff, you have like remakes and everything that you can play, and there's
Yeah.
still more that they
Oh, it's
haven't done that
literally
too.
called
So
like it's called Yakuza Like a Dragon. That
mhm.
that's what the name. So there's yeah, okay. So I see. There's Like a Dragon Ishin, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, and then Like a Dragon
Mhm.
Infinite Wealth. But I've heard Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is on Game Pass, is a good entry point into the series.
Yeah, probably because they switched up the gameplay.
Mm,
I know prior to that, and like for a majority of the series, they're like third person beat 'em up action games.
yeah.
And whenever Yakuza Like a Dragon came out, they kind of switched to a more like turn based
Mm,
approach.
mm.
But they still have action
I don't know.
gameplay
I don't
in
know
the new
much
ones
about
too.
this,
So
much about the series, but I will tune into the show because, uh, look, I'm not saying there's anything like it. I know that it's a lot more goofy, but uh, I'm a sucker for good action like martial arts movies, and also this
mhm,
just the one frame that we got because we was like there's one image that was released of the guy like like flexing, from the side.
mhm.
Um, and it reminded me of a movie from like 2006 or 7 called Ninja Assassin. I don't know if you remember this, Nick.
I remember seeing trailers for it. I never saw it
But
though.
I watched that movie because yeah, I remember that movie very fondly because I wasn't allowed to watch it because it was rated hard R because of like it was super gory.
Mhm.
But I rented it from the library and I watched it anyway, and I was like, this is awesome. This is cool. So I'm hoping if it's anything like that, I'm in. We'll find out
Yeah, I
later
think
this year.
at the ground level, it'll at least be entertaining. So
Yes, yeah,
definitely one to keep an eye on. This one I thought was pretty interesting. Larian announced earlier this week that Baldur's Gate 3 is getting official mod tools, and
yeah,
with that, they're actually doing mod support on PC and console, which is even in 2024 is a fairly exclusive club. Not many games can really do the mods on console kind of thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't think there's many details out right now about it. I think it was mainly just like a hey, we're doing mod support, check back later kind of a thing.
No,
But
I think because if I because I only briefly glanced over this when they announced it. I think that it's like available for limited people to use now, like a certain like it's like
okay.
closed beta or something like that, or like something very limited. But then
Mm-hmm.
they're going to open it up for everyone. I believe they said later this year. So some people are getting their hands on these tools now.
Yeah, it's kind of like how Bethesda's doing it. Some of their like featured
Yeah,
creators or whatever have access to the Starfield modding tools. So yeah, cool though. Big games like this usually benefit from mods.
yeah.
Bethesda's a perfect example of that. So
Also, speaking of mods, I saw these two, and I'm gonna try to remember both of them. So the first one, someone's remaking uh Vampire the Masquerade, or no, Vampire, like one of the first vampire games, like in that series,
mhm.
in the Skyrim engine. So they're modding it into the into Skyrim, and so you can download it as a mod and then play through the entire game in Skyrim, which is crazy. What a random thing to have happened. And then also the second one, you might know more about this than me, and I'm probably like I don't remember this exactly, but it's essentially like over 100 people are now working on a Fallout 2 remake mod. Right? Is am I understand that
Mhm.
correct? Like it's a mod for Fallout
Yeah,
4 that remakes Fallout 2
the Fallout modding scene obviously is like
is
massive. Like
crazy. Yeah,
there's
some
mods
like
for
full scale
pretty much
productions going
everything.
on in the Bethesda modding community.
Yeah, but pretty much every Fallout game has a Fallout 4 remake project going on right now.
Oh wow.
There is a Fallout 1.
Is that engine that friendly for modding? Yeah.
I'm not super, familiar with it, but it is, it's certainly the one that I think it has the most activity on it right now. I mean, obviously New Vegas and 3 still get mods like,
Yeah, yeah,
regularly as well, but I feel like most of them kind of transition to Fallout 4 once that started getting more popular.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a Fallout 1 and 2 remake project. There's the Capital Wasteland project, which is a full Fallout 3 one. There's Fallout 4 New Vegas, which is a New Vegas conversion to 4. So there's even mods that bring 76 mechanics and stuff into Fallout 4, which
Oh.
is also funny. Um, but yeah, there's a bunch of full scale ones. The Fallout 2 one, I think, is like still the earliest. The New
Mm,
Vegas and the 3 ones are pretty far along, and the Fallout 1 mod project, they share updates like every year pretty much. So
mm.
they've been chipping away at that. But yeah, all of them look cool. I mean, you take one look, especially the Fallout 1 and 2 ones where it's like you go from this isometric, like super pixelated art style to the full 3D, and like how you translate those kind of environments I always find interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. Um. Oh, and then okay, yeah. I think those. I said both of those modding tools. We can move on from
Yeah.
the mods.
Yeah. So next, let's talk about. We can probably hit this one first. Sony earlier this week announced a PC adapter for PlayStation VR 2. So if you have a PSVR 2 headset and you buy this separate adapter, you will be able to use that on your PC as long as it meets the specifications. They have those highlighted on their website or on their PlayStation blog post where, your kind of minimum spec that you need if you want to run your headset on your PC. But this does have a couple of caveats.
So,
First of all,
some pretty big caveats too. I think personally,
yeah, depending on what you want out of your VR experience. Basically, it'll cost $60,
the
US
adapter. Yeah,
dollars.
yeah.
The adapter itself, yeah. Specifically, some of the features that it's not going to allow you to take advantage of is HDR, eye tracking and adaptive triggers.
Yeah.
Now on the blog post, it specifies that these are more so like PS5 specific features. So like the eye
Because
tracking
they
one,
say it was
I'm gonna
designed
be
for, like,
honest.
the PSVR 2 is designed for the exclusively for PlayStation 5, which I get, but
Yeah, the eye tracking one kind of confuses me because I don't really see where a translation
yeah.
like that would not work. HDR I could kind of understand, and same with the adaptive triggers. Like that's a very PlayStation
That one
kind
I
of
can kind of
focus.
get too, because even on Steam, I think like certain games or maybe all games, like adaptive trigger only works if you plug it in. You can't just do it via Bluetooth too. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's something there going on, but yeah,
Yeah, so depending on the type of player you are, like that is going to be, you know, those are some cutbacks certainly from your
yeah,
headset. But on the other hand, in the official image they use, they have Half-Life Alex on the screen,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
if this will likely end up being the most affordable way to play Half-Life Alex, surprisingly,
Well,
if you
here's the thing,
only
right?
have to buy in with a $500 headset.
For me, obviously, look, we're a podcast. Like, it's pretty much in the job description that we have to over like engineer things and over examine things. But for me, just looking at what this is, I don't think that Sony is trying to sell people the PSVR 2 here. I think this is for people who already have a PSVR 2. They're like, hey, we know there's not been a lot of games for this console who's going on right now. So here's a few games. You can adapt for $60. You can play some other games for whatever. But also, I don't know if that's necessarily like the best look. Consider, you know what I mean? Like what does that say? I mean, like we had a PlayStation State of Play last week. What they had two VR games, three.
Yeah, two VR
Two
games.
VR games for PlayStation VR 2. Meanwhile, and by the way, this is like what, like $250 system, and then on top of that, you're getting $60 for this adapter.
Well, it's
Meanwhile,
500 for the VR2.
PS.
Yeah,
Are you
it's the
joking?
same price as the
Holy
PS5
okay,
if you're
well,
going for a new
okay.
one.
To add on to that point though, like it's $500 for this goddamn console that Sony's just not is not putting out all, like, is not supporting, and it's $60 for an adapter. Meanwhile, earlier today, I saw that the Meta Quest 2 is $100. I don't even want a Meta Quest 2, but I was like, $100. I'll buy it. I mean, it was out of stock. I was sold out. But regardless, in that market, I don't understand how the PSVR 2 competes. Like, especially with Meta Quest 2 as the competitor, or Meta Quest 3 for less than the
Yeah,
price of a PSVR 2.
yeah, it's certainly weird. Like, whenever they announced VR2, they obviously announced it after Half-Life Alex exists.
Yeah,
And like whenever I saw that, I was like, oh, they're gonna port Half-Life Alex to PS5. That's what they're gonna do. And
is
this
reverse.
is like, you know, maybe they tried and realized that they couldn't do that, so they're like, well, maybe we can sell an adapter that
Yeah.
can somehow get it to work. I don't know, but yeah, they're certainly in a really weird spot with VR2. Like,
I mean,
it's like they're supporting it by putting out some games, but they're
yeah.
not like diving into the deep end with it.
Which doesn't look. I will say that the games we saw at the State of Play looked cool. The PSVR games, and
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that some of the PSVR games, like the Call of the Wild, I believe, right? That's the Horizon one. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
like they're also really well crafted VR experiences, but also especially if this thing is a $500 console, which is the same as your home console. Even if it's not, even if it's $300 or up, right? Anywhere in that price range, that's a full blown console, because you could buy a Switch for that price too, or a Series S. So for that, asking people to pay that much money and not having a games, even games that are like on other platforms, like I don't know why they're not getting other like successful VR games over to this. I don't know. It feels like a weird choice. I don't know if VR is the I don't know. I don't know if it'll be the next big hit for PlayStation as much as they're hoping. But maybe this is the time they'll do a duck and they'll go to like a PSP again. Try that again.
Yeah, based on how VR2's gone, I would find it pretty hard to believe if they would try a third headset at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
even with a Pro released,
yeah.
even if a PS5 Pro comes out.
But the last thing that we kind of have in our news section is just some more announcements teased for Summer Game Fest.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had our predictions the other week, and more things have been confirmed slash soft confirmed.
Well, by the way,
Things
Nick, did you
like,
see this Jeff Keighley quote about or like conversation where he essentially said like manage your expectations for this year's Summer Game Fest?
I've
He
been seeing a lot of people talk about it. I didn't watch it myself, but like he kind of has been doing it, so I've been surprised to see the amount of people talking about it this year.
yeah. Um, honestly, I mean, he said, he'd give it like he would set his hype for 8, I think, or something like that, 8 out of 10. Um,
Mhm.
feels like a very specific target, like he hit 8 exactly. If you go 7, it's like, oh, okay, why are we doing it? If it's 9, okay, people get too excited, so there's like 8 right
Right.
down the middle.
Like he's in a very tough position because people just like run away with his presentations, and that's
100%.
what always like ruins expectations. Like my one buddy, he was texting me because people were like, I think somebody directly asked him if he was going to show Kingdom Hearts 4, and he said
No.
no and don't expect that. And people apparently like on the Reddit were saying like he's hiding something, like
Yeah.
his cheeks are more flush when he
I
says
I
that, and it's
saw
like,
that. I saw that too. I saw people like just I mean they're like, yeah, like he said no, but like what does he mean though? Like no, I would imagine no. Now look,
it's
would I
insane.
love to be sitting here on Friday in 3 days from now and Kingdom Hearts comes out and I shut my damn mouth. Yeah, sure, I'd love to do that, but I don't think I'm
Exactly.
gonna see Kingdom Hearts at Summer Game Fest, guys. I hate to break it to you, and I know Square Enix doesn't have a showcase this year, right? So at least
No,
as of now. So
because yeah, because Jeff he usually after like each of these big showcases, not just his own, but like others as well, will put out like a Twitter poll and be like, what do you rank that showcase or whatever. And I replied to my buddy, I'm like, yeah, these Kingdom Hearts people, they're probably the same people that are gonna rank it a D when it's not there. Like, it's like
yeah,
he's very clearly being like, no. And like yes, Jeff usually does have like at least one kind of big thing. Like he had Elden Ring
yep.
before, he had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth like
Mm-hmm.
either last year or the year before. So it's like he gets some good stuff, but like just don't expect the world out of these. But I should mention the things that have kind of been confirmed. Earlier today, we're getting the first gameplay for Slitterhead, which has
Mm-hmm.
been teased over a couple years from the creator of Silent Hill.
Yeah. What a
There
name.
is, yeah. I texted you this. I guess they're new. Blumhouse Games, like a
Yes.
game production arm of the horror film production
Yep.
house.
Yep.
They're going to have some announcements, heavily teasing that Alan Wake 2 DLC will be shown
Mm-hmm.
at Jeff's show. He's been posting some things and replying to Remedy things
Yeah.
recently. So I did see today that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is going to have a new look at
Hmm.
Summer Game Fest. Monster Hunter Wilds is getting a new look, and there's going to be a cinematic trailer for Dune Awakening. Sorry, I
Yep.
lost while I was reading there, which I think is the MMO, if I
I believe so.
recall
Yep.
correctly.
Yep.
So yeah, just some additional things that have been coming out for Jeff's show. I
Look,
know
for me,
sometimes that's
the thing that really caught my eye is Blumhouse Games because now
mhm,
what of the many properties that Blumhouse owns are we going to get? Obviously, we've already had Halloween, so we could maybe get a Halloween. But like what going through, I literally looked up their filmography and I'm going through. I mean, like, do you think an Insidious game could come out? I mean, maybe
I could see that.
maybe a first person shooter that's the Purge, like set in the Purge universe, or not like a not a first person shooter, but like a imagine this like a Dead Island 2 gameplay mechanics, but Purge.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, my mind immediately went to like a, you know, a multiplayer game, like
Oh, like okay,
all
sure,
the
sure.
people out on the purge night or whatever.
That would be pretty cool too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So every it's like a multiplayer game. So every match is like the purge night. The
Hmm.
sirens begin, and then yeah, it's like a yeah. That'd be
Or
pretty interesting.
because
Interesting.
like I haven't seen them, but in Insidious, isn't that like kind of like Paranormal Activity, or am I off base on that?
No, no, no. Insidious is more. It's no. It's closer to like Conjuring. It's like that kind of horror. It's not like a found footage. If that's what you're saying.
Gotcha. I was gonna say if I was thinking of like I was thinking of the found footage kind of thing, and I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like they could easily pop in with like a Lethal Company or a content warning kind of game
sure.
in the
Now
style of one of those.
here's a wild card. Look, sometimes I like to throw Hail Marys out there, so bear with me, guys. All right, this is a crazy idea, but looking at their filmography, I think there's one that could make a really good game. It came out last year. It's called Five Nights at Freddy's. I think if they make a game out of that, they got something there. I think they could really work. You know,
God, Jeff usually has Five Nights, doesn't he? Like
it could
I could see it.
new Five Nights, new
Five
Five
Nights
Nights.
at Freddy's, the movie, the game.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want. Now, Nick, it is time for the main topic.
Main course.
The main course. We want to talk about E3, which, first of all, I mean, just to start it off, Nick, let's talk about what E3 kind of means to us individually. And we haven't really talked about this. It's just kind of like an organic conversation that we're going to have live right now. So, if you want, you can go first, or I'll jump in if you want to gather your thoughts.
Sure. I mean, my read on E3, I mean, it starts all the way back. Man, I don't even know what the first. It must have been around 2010 was when I first
Sure.
started
Yeah.
watching E3 because it wasn't even on YouTube. We had cable TV and on demand in our house, and I remember one day I was like looking at like movies to watch or something on there, and I had seen Spike TV E3
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
catalog, and I was like, oh, what's this? Or no, it would have been G4. It wasn't on
G4,
Spike.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally. Yep.
it was G4 E3 stuff, and I saw like recognizable things like the main one that I hopped into was the now kind of infamous Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword E3 demo where Miyamoto's Wii remotes desync while he's trying to demo the game on stage. But it was like a bunch of clips of these new games that I had never seen before. I'm like, what the heck is all this stuff?
Yeah.
That was kind of my introduction to it. And basically every year since then, I've been watching E3 regularly. Like it's
Yeah.
a lot of people will describe it this way, but it felt like, Christmas in June,
Yeah.
because like,
Yeah.
especially for gamers, because it's just like they have all these showcases, a bunch of new games you'd never heard of before, or like new sequels were getting announced, like exciting gameplay stuff, people talking about games.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all just like, an exciting time to be, a fan of games. And
Yeah.
yeah, what's your read on E3?
No, I think we're pretty much on the same place. E3 has always been like this, like this like special time of the year for me, where obviously there's all already the fact that like summer's right around the corner type of thing. When I was in school, it's like this was the thing that started me to the summer. Like, obviously there's still like some final exams or whatever, but like E3 was this, and especially like watching G4, I think was kind of like huge in terms of like seeing people talk about video games and essentially do what like we're doing here, but like on a production scale on a TV set and stuff like that was so cool and was so unique. And it really sucks that they like I know they tried to reboot recently and it didn't really work. And so I think went back down again, but regardless, E3 for regardless of G4 was so special, and getting to see the schedules and like what day what developer was or like what publisher was hosting a showcase. And also I think that there was it really sucks being where we are now, because I think that when we
Where
were
it's just
kids,
not a thing anymore.
yeah, we were in like we didn't know how good we had it, Nick, is what I'm saying, because
Hmm.
like they used to do showcases like crazy, like they were you know, physical showcases, you know, physical events that just like
On a
were
stage.
made, yeah, on a stage that were made to be like, yo, like this is crazy shit, you know.
Hmm.
Like Twisted Metal, they brought out the dude from like, you know, like they brought out the truck and the I forget the name of the clown dude now.
Sweet Tooth.
Sweet Tooth, yes. They brought, you know, they brought him out, and like it's a whole thing. Like those things are so special. And I mean, I guess it's not. It's a little bit off topic, but I think it's also on topic. We've mentioned this briefly in like across 3 tweets previously, but
Hmm.
like E3 was a huge reason for why we did this, like Respawn Station, because like I mean, even in college when Nick and I were working on a show together, I had tried to pitch stuff like, you know, video game stuff a lot, and
Hmm.
it didn't quite always get off the ground because, you know, it just didn't always hit the right audience. You know, I totally get it. So because of that,
Hmm.
though, I was like, okay, I have to try something on my own, or not on my own, but like something separate, not from that. And that's how like what the start of Respawn Station came to be. And it was always the goal for me when I first kind of was like, oh, I'm gonna try to do this, to want to be at E3, you know, to cover E3.
It was the goal for pretty much everybody. I feel like,
Yeah,
you know, you hear stories from people that work E3, and it's just like, you know, a lot of them say, you know, it's not what it's cracked up to be. Like working it is very different than watching it
yeah,
at home. But
yeah.
like, you kind of can't get like, you know, all starry eyed when you see it.
No, yeah.
You know, the final product at the end.
I mean, and but that's the thing though. Like, I mean, it was like such a um, it sucks too, because I've heard the same thing about like how it's like so crowded and everything. But also that that's the at that point in time that was like the it was huge. I mean, like it was in terms of like obviously nerd culture is everywhere now. And I'm not saying like E3 put nerd culture on the map, but it was like, you know, it was like Comic Con, but we're just focusing on video games mainly, right? Like, or like essentially like that was what
Right.
what it was. And to kind of have this event that you could have every year that really just celebrated video games, and you know, gave like everyone a look at what was coming in the coming weeks or years or months, whatever, was just awesome. But anyway, to the point I was saying though, uh, we wanted to cover E3 as, and like that was like one of like those things like, oh, you know, if we could get there, you know, like those kind of big North Star goals that we had. Now, unfortunately, E3 is no more. You know, we can't go to E3 because there won't be another E3 at least for the foreseeable future. There's always a chance someone could buy it up and, you know, reboot it or something like that you know, later on. But um,
Yeah.
and it sucks that we won't be able to do it. To kind of our partial credit, I think in 2021 we were given press access. Like Respawn Station was a press site that covered E3. So we did cover E3. We just weren't there physically in person. So a little bit of a, you know, a little notch in the belt, but also with a caveat, I guess. But with that said, I mean, the reason why E3 is so special is because it has so many fun, like crazy moments, and that's, I think, what we wanted to spend the rest of this episode, or at least most of this rest of this episode, talking about. So, Nick, hit me with one of your favorite. We'll kind of go back and forth between like our favorites. So, give me one of your favorites, favorite E3 moments. You know?
Yeah, sure. So, uh, the the thing I want to say before going into the moment specifically
Yeah.
is something that we just kind of hinted at, which is what I think makes the best E3 moments was the fact that it was like a live event on a stage with like real people in the audience and like
Yeah.
real developers and people on the stage, right? Now, most of these, Jeff Keighley kind of being the one outlier, most of these are digital events kind of following the Nintendo Direct formula, right? Like
Yeah.
you'll have
Yeah.
some executives or like some disembodied voices talking, but it's mostly just a collection of trailers rather than having like nice, a
Right.
nice stage, nice, celebratory, like over the top
Yeah, I mean they're not
publishers
bringing
spending
out like
money to
the Lego like model size like Porsche or
exactly.
whatever that was like.
Yeah, the Lego Forza cars and
Yeah,
stuff. Like
yeah.
that's the stuff that I miss and that like I appreciate that Jeff Keighley tries to
Hmm.
maintain those sorts of things, but it's not quite the same as it was in years past. But um, the things that I do like about it, though, and I'll just start off with my
An obvious one for you.
probably my favorite one as a huge Fallout fan was 2015, the Fallout
Hell
4
yeah.
like reveal and showcase. They posted the trailer for the game I think like a month before E3 because like we had known that you know Fallout 4 was a thing by the time that we came to E3, but this was the first time Bethesda announced that they were doing a press conference. Usually
Hmm.
they were just part of like a Sony or an Xbox showcase. This is the first time they're like, oh yeah, we're doing a showcase, and it's like, oh man, like we're gonna go in on Fallout 4, and
Right.
like I had mentioned it on probably the episode where we were talking about the TV show, where like me and my friend group, I mean, we were always daydreaming about new Fallout
Right.
game and everything like that, and to be like, oh, so there is a new game, and we're gonna get like a you know a look at it. We didn't know
Right. Yeah.
how big of a look we were gonna get. Obviously, it's like they've never done a press conference, so you can't really judge anything on the past or anything. It could have been a 2 minute trailer for all we knew,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they really came out swinging in that press conference. I mean, they started it off not even Fallout related, but they had like the Doom 2016 like
Yeah,
gameplay that they
Dishonored
showed.
2 I think was also at that time as
Yeah, I
well.
think you're right.
And
I think that was revealed.
also I think I distinctly remember like Bethesda's showcases. They always felt, and it sucks that we don't get those anymore because like they're now like Xbox Bethesda showcase, or I guess now
Mm-hmm.
just Xbox showcase, is it? I'm not sure
Yeah,
if they've.
I think they've dropped the Bethesda finally.
Yeah, but like for those years that they did it, if it like Xbox was like the bad boy, like or not sorry, not Xbox, Bethesda was like the bad boy showcase because like I'm pretty sure that they were actively like cursing because like they definitely had like the when Wolfenstein they're like fuck Nazis, like they had that like
That's a
whatever,
hilarious point to make. Yes, I do
and
remember
they
specifically
and they
that.
allowed people to drink at the event too. I believe I don't know if it
Uh,
was like an open bar, but I do remember like people could drink.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I distinctly remember that. Yeah, I think it was Pete Hines saying "fuck Nazis" on stage and stuff like that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
But yeah, outside of those, I mean, the main thing, Todd Howard coming up on stage,
looking
we see all
suave as
this like
always.
yeah, we see all this concept art. He's saying the right words like, hey, Fallout, like
What a
it's
good build
awesome,
up to
right?
that. Yeah, yeah,
And then we get like these little kind of like you were describing before, like vignettes of like different things. Like we obviously got like the
yeah.
build mode, we got exploration, we got the character creator. Then we kind of take a break, and Todd Howard announces another new game, which is
Fallout
Fallout
Shelter.
Shelter,
Yeah,
and we see this mobile game, which again, like mobile. It's take it or leave it for most people, but
free
the
to
art
play.
style looked really cool. He said it was free to play. They were trying not to do at the time the mobile game shtick.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
stuff kind of seeped in later on, but you know the big surprise was, hey, this game is releasing tonight,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that was I don't know exactly if they were the first one, but that moment I think is where many people point to as like kind of the concept of like shadow dropping a game became
Sure.
popular.
Right. Yeah.
Because
I,
I
it
personally
certainly
don't
comes to
remember
mind
many
for me.
examples before that where
Yeah.
people were just like, hey, this is playable
Sure.
tonight. So that was obviously a huge mic drop moment. And then at that point, I remember in the room, because I invited my friends over and we were all watching it. I remember at that point, I was like, man, I love Fallout 4. That's going to be so cool. Like, that was a good presentation. And then he starts spooling up into another demonstration. He's like, oh, you thought we were done? Like, we still got more to go. And like, it's just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it was so perfect. And you just get more and more of these looks at the game. And then they ended it with
The release date.
the release release date being 6 months later, which was basically like a perfect presentation
Not
for
even six
somebody
months, right?
like
I was
me.
like, yeah, it was because it's like a
Yeah, you're right. It was like 5 months. It came
yeah,
out in November.
yeah, crazy. Yeah, that one was also on my list as well. I do remember that one. It's a great showcase. Um, it's one of those. It's the same thing for quite a few of the ones that I'm going to mention. That I can go back and watch these showcases again and like almost like relive those certain moments because they're just like so I
Hmm.
remember them so fondly. Specifically,
And I should mention real quick that,
yeah,
like, yes, there probably is a little bit of bias in that on my part as a huge Fallout fan. At the same time, trying to remove that from me, like, I still think that's a really kick-ass presentation. Like, I think it was a really well done one.
yeah, and so my next one, I have to preface this. I don't know if you ever did one of these, Nick, but there used to like Sony used to do these things for like around 2015 to 2018, somewhere around there, that range. They had PlayStation experiences or PlayStation E3 experiences, and what these were was essentially, obviously they had their big like their E3 show live, held in person in LA, at some convention center or like stage or whatever, wherever they do it. And only those people that are in the theater can experience that kind of out as it is, and then it's live streamed everywhere else. But then for the PlayStation experience, they sent out these limited amount of tickets for IMAX theaters that stream the event live from the like where it's happening, uh, you know, in as real time as they can get it. And you're in a theater full of people, almost getting the same experience of like sitting there and watching these games get announced. And so actually, quite a few of the games the three of the games that I have written down are from these PlayStation experiences, and they are like some of my favorite goddamn moments that like just always put a smile on my face. The first
So
one,
you actually got to go to the theater
yes,
experiences?
yeah,
Oh, nice. I never got to. I remembered them advertising them, and it was like
and it
that'd
was,
be so cool.
and I will say that I actually still so they gave us they were quite like nice with it too, because so they give lanyards, and then they had like essentially like a pass that said like PlayStation Experience like pass or whatever.
That's so awesome.
And then they give like a poster. One year they had like it was like an Uncharted 4 poster because that was what they had showcased. And then there was also like random codes. Like they had like one year they gave out like $15 PlayStation Store. Another year I think they gave out like Street Fighter 5 or something. Just like random
Oh, cool.
random stuff like that. But
Was there a lot of people there? That's the one thing that I was always curious about.
it was almost always a full theater. Yeah.
Right on. That's
And
awesome.
and so the I mean, yeah, we'll go back and forth, but like again, three of these are kind of grouped together. But the first one is God of War. What year was this? 2018.
This would have been the E3 for 2017, but it
17,
was the
yeah,
2018 God of War.
right, yeah. So 2017, when like or when they revealed it, that I can picture the like sitting in the crowd. The show starts, we're live, and everyone just goes quiet. Like, shh. You hear people like going shh, and it fades in from black, and it's just this kid going watch, and he's playing with toys, and then just you hear the voice, boy, and the whole crowd like you hear like is that who I think it is? Oh my god! And then when he steps out of the fucking shadow, people are on their feet like I actually I'll have to it'll take a lot of digging, but I have footage of this like because I remember like having my phone, and I have footage of like the theater kind of just being like, oh shit, it's God of War. That's what we're looking at right now. Oh my god, that like yeah, it's just absolute like, goosebumps, like total like crazy experience.
Yeah, that's we were talking before we started recording, and that's obviously like another like famous kind of E3 moment because
Yeah,
Cory Barlog was on stage,
yeah, yeah.
filmed controller in hand doing the live playthrough
It's
of it.
it's such a small detail, but like in that video of him playing of that game, there's like a shot like right before like the gameplay starts where it's just of him, and it's such a small thing, but like he takes a second and he rubs his palms on his pants to like get the like for like the sweat, and I was like, the tension of having to do that live must have been like, yeah, especially because it's your you're kind of your baby type of thing, like yeah.
And this is the first time people are seeing it. Like this didn't have like a CG trailer or anything like that. There were rumors that it was, Norse mythology floating around.
Yeah, right.
Nobody had seen anything of this game before, and they just, reveal it with a
and also
huge
shout out to believe I hope it is I'm correct on this, but Bear McCreary for the score for God of War absolutely rocks. But also because again Sony was like the kings of E3 showcases. Like I don't like Xbox had some good years, don't get me wrong, but like the highs of Sony's like PlayStation's showcases I don't think have ever been touched by anyone else, because like they had a live orchestra for like and now like playing the music live for God of War and stuff like for their showcases when it was coming out. Like that stuff was, and like there was one where they had like waterfall. I don't know if you remember. Like there's like on stage they had like a waterfall that would like spell out X and O and square and triangle. Man, like what? Like for just flexing for no reason.
Yeah, and we were talking before we hit record that that was kind of the last time that anybody's really done like a live stage demo. That's certainly like even before E3 was gone, like that was kind of a dying breed. Was having
it shows such confidence. I'd be crazy to see if someone does that again, because like it would mean like you have such confidence in your game. You're like, I can do this. We'll do it live, and also to I mean. Actually, I'll let you go first. I'll let you do one of yours before I step into another.
Sure. Yeah, let's see. What's another one that I want to go with? This one's a bit different. This wasn't technically an E3, moment, but it was a showcase moment, which was the launch trailer for The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
This trailer played at the end of the, like, Nintendo basically held a showcase in early, when was this? I think it was early 2017. It was like in January, where they had already officially revealed the Switch, but weren't sharing like many details about it. Like it had, I don't know if you remember, but it had that one trailer where it was like people playing in like a park and on an airplane and stuff. It was a very like commercial kind of reveal for it. But this was like an hour-long showcase where they were showing like the Joy-Cons, they were showing games that were going to be releasing for it. They announced the price and the pre-order date and everything. And basically, the Breath of the Wild trailer was the ending of the presentation, where it was announced that it was going to be releasing on Switch and on day one. So
and on Wii
already
U.
right there, that's an exciting, announcement to have. But also, this trailer is definitively, in my personal opinion, one of the greatest video game trailers ever created. The pacing is perfect. You mentioned like the music during the God of War segment. The music is like constructed just for this trailer, and like it matches like the slow build up, the reveal of all these environment shots. Then it goes in on, action and puzzles, and you're just seeing all these different things flash before your eyes. And you get the reveal that they're using voice actors for this game because they never had spoken dialogue prior to this, really. So it had so many reveals. It was a very hype trailer, and then the cherry on the top is just like, hey, you're playing this in 2 months, and it's like, oh my god,
on a new system.
Anytime I go back and watch that trailer, like it gives me goosebumps, and I legitimately think it's one of the greatest trailers that a game has ever gotten.
Now, my next one is not a specific game, but it's E3 2013. Now, this was at least I believe is E3 2013, because I'm pretty sure. Or is E3 2014? Either way, it was the year that the next gen or the at the time the next generation consoles were coming out, the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Hmm.
I mean,
I think it probably was 2013 because I think they came out in the fall of that year.
okay, yeah. So look, again, I'm not saying that Xbox is bad. I'm just saying that that the times that I remember very fondly is when PlayStation's just at their peak of their game. And 2013, I mean, look, they dunked on Xbox continually because they were both revealing their new consoles at the same time, and I believe Xbox's was like a few hours before, or maybe the day before the PlayStation
Yeah, theirs was in the afternoon, I remember, and PlayStation always did theirs at night.
at night. Yeah, and I remember there were so many small things, like the fact that they emphasized like, yeah, game sharing. You just put the game in your system and you play it. You don't have to it's not tied to your account, which was like something what the Xbox One was supposed to do. And
Hmm.
yeah, that commercial that I with Shuhei Yoshida of like
Hmm.
handing
Where
the
they just
game console
hand off
and
the
like this is
game.
how you what is it, like trade games with your friends on PlayStation 4, and then it's handing it. Yeah,
That
so
had to
many
have been filmed like that day,
that day.
right?
No, 100%.
Like,
Yeah, you could tell the quality is not like it's not like, yeah, they're just like, all right, how do we do this? We just get it done. But even like the presentation, like it was like so pointed, and I'm pretty sure they ended it with like the price, and they price undercut the Xbox One as well by like $50, I think, if I remember correctly. Again, I could be
I
wrong,
think
but
it was 100. I
it could be.
think
It could be.
Xbox One was going to be 500, and they did 400 for that first model.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah,
It,
you also don't really get that anymore, right? Like it feels like a lot of the companies aren't quite at each other's throat like they were back then.
yeah. And look, I know I don't know how it was like at the company to like work in that time period, but like as a consumer, or like even as someone like kind of just watching it, it was so interesting and entertaining to kind of see them kind of essentially try to like showmanship their way into your attention.
Hmm.
It's like I was being courted. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. They like the publishers used to try, and now I feel like they don't try, and we just do whatever they say. You know what I mean? We're just forking over
Right.
however much they want, and they're not even putting in the effort to make
Yeah,
us
they
happy.
just throw out the trailers or whatever. But yeah, there's none of the like pomp and circumstance that the old ones used to have. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
What
I remember the that specific E3 also, just like because of all of what you said, like the back and forth between Sony and Microsoft, and
yeah.
you know they had some exciting trailers that year from what I recall, but as an extension of that, I think it wasn't until
Watch Dogs was that year,
20.
right? The Watch
Yeah,
Dogs
that would have
trailer.
been Watch Dogs. I think
Yeah.
that might have been at the Xbox One, now that I'm thinking about it. And I
Mm.
think wasn't the Division 1 also that year? I
Oh
vaguely
shit.
remember that. But
No, Division
the
1 was the 2016, or yeah, 2016. So it's
yeah, I think you're right. I think it's later.
yeah,
But yeah, I think it's the 2015 Sony showcase. That's like, the famous one where they
yeah,
had
yeah,
Last Guardian, Shenmue 3, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, like all these
yeah,
bombshell
yeah,
announcements that people have been wanting for years, or wanting like updates or games that we thought
yeah,
disappeared. And it's weird because it's like people in our space, at least that I watch online, like we kind of hold that showcase in high regard, and it's just like they've never kind of hit that same level again.
yeah,
But you like look at the slate that they had there, and it's like, how do you even
yeah.
get back to
How do
that
you come
point
back to
with
yeah,
games these days? It's like we have like Half-Life 3, maybe that's still at that like mythical kind of it's never gonna happen stage, but like
yeah.
that wouldn't even show up at a Sony conference these days. So it's like I don't
Uh,
know how you get back to that point.
so all right. Your last one that you had on here is not technically an E3, so I'm gonna go through I'm gonna go through the ones that I had, and then we'll talk about yours. So
Yeah, sure.
I already said Fallout 4. Great. That whole showcase, actually, not just Fallout 4, but the whole showcase was really awesome. Um, just so I can appease the Xbox fans, the Keanu Reeves coming out for Cyberpunk 2077, just golden moment. I mean, "You are breathtaking" is just an iconic kind of phrase in the
Yeah.
community now. Just a very
I remember me and my buddy were like kind of, you know, not like the biggest CD Projekt Red fans at
sure,
that time,
yeah,
but we both agreed that that moment was like insane and
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Such a crowd pleaser.
There's like certain entrances in my head that like, again, I don't watch sports, you know. I like esports maybe sometimes, like if I'm like, it's like something I'm like really into, but like I don't
Mm-hmm.
really watch sports, right? So like for me, I don't remember like those like touchdown moments, but if, like there are moments in my head of like certain reveals. It's not at E3, but like I mean we're talking about how like Keanu's entrance in at the Xbox conference. One moment that's I just lives rent free in my head is the year when Kojima left Konami and he wasn't allowed to be at the Game Awards because Konami essentially put like a restriction or like, hey, like, you know, you're something about like, I guess your contract's not over. I don't remember the politics of what it was at the time, but he wasn't allowed to be there.
Yeah.
And um either like it was either then or like whenever they did it, I forget what the exact time frame was, but like there was like a moment where Jeff was like, "It's my honor to introduce you to," and then like they bring out the Mad Max music, like it's like the doom 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 doom, and
And
then
he's yeah.
Kojima like walks down like from like the stairway of heaven, like he just walks
Yeah.
onto the stage.
The light. Stairs
Yeah,
of light.
what a time! I mean, yeah, both. Yeah, those are, and also Todd Howard. I in the Fallout 76, actually that reveal, like that whole, despite whatever Fallout 76 ended up becoming, the reveal of Fallout 76, like that moment was also, I think, because that's a leather jacket, right? That's the nice leather jacket. He
Yeah.
used. Yeah, yeah.
That was the brown jacket one.
All right, now that I've
Yeah.
okay, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna add in one extra one that I had thought of,
Yeah, yeah.
which was this would have been, I think, 2016.
Uh-huh.
I think it was 2016. Um, and I think it was at Xbox. They had
Oh.
the reveal of Battlefield 1, and they had like 100 PCs on stage or whatever, and they had like, you know, a bunch of people playing it. I don't
Oh.
remember the exact specifics of it, but it was like they had a multiplayer match going, and I think maybe it was after a showcase because they were like
Oh, and they were
cutting
cutting
between the
live
different
between them.
people's
Yeah, yeah, I think I remember.
perspectives.
Yeah,
And I remember like that game was exciting, you know,
yeah.
because that was one of the first ones that was like, you know, non-modern day that they were
Well, and
attempting to
also
go with.
that game came out at the time where Call of Duty was kept going to space and futuristic, and so people were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Finally, Battlefield's giving us what we want, boots on the ground." And then, you
Yeah.
know, obviously, Call of Duty
And
20,
it ended up being
2019 happened.
hugely successful. But yeah, that's another one that sticks out in my mind that I remember.
Yeah,
I don't go
yeah,
back and like watch that one, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember being like
I remember
really
that one. I don't.
intense with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. The last two I had. The first one. Also, this one's a random one. Days Gone. I remember like Sony had like bodies hanging on the stage for Days Gone, if I remember correctly. Like, I guess to build the atmosphere, which I thought was funny. But
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man, another one that I was at the PlayStation Experience for, with the first Marvel Spider-Man from Insomniac Games. Awesome, same thing. Just like I believe that ended the show, right? Like it was like
Yeah.
God of War started and then Spider-Man ended, I believe. But whatever show it ended on, it was like huge. Everyone was just going crazy over the fact that Insomniac was doing this thing that was just like felt so like so. I mean, it's hard not to look at Marvel Spider-Man and be like, wow, this looks pretty fucking cool. I mean, it just it looks polished and the animation and just the presentation is so clean, and it feels just very Spider-Man. They really nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously we know that now. Obviously the game's been out for a while, but then
Similarly, real quick,
oh yes
Trey,
yes yes
before
yes
you go into yours, because this is just a quick one. Similarly, on the level of like, you know, just kind of jaw hitting the floor, I remember feeling the same way when they revealed Ghost of Tsushima and
oh
watching
yeah
that gameplay demo. It was like the same thing. It was just like,
yeah
what am I
yeah
looking at? This looks like pre-rendered cutscenes.
yeah
Like,
yeah.
just insane.
Now the last one for me is no, along with God of War, along with Spider-Man, one that I rewatch occasionally. And again, I should also have footage of this, but it's like somewhere on some old hard drive. I have to find it. So if I find it, I'll share it. But it is Kitchen, because at the time there was this demo. There was this mysterious demo out for something called Kitchen, and we're in the stage. The whole theater goes dark. The screen goes dark, and it's like the text comes up that it's like before Kitchen, and there was, and it's weird, like first person horror, and I was like, wow, this looks super super cool. Like wow, I haven't seen a first person horror game that like was like this quality. And then it has like this I don't know what the song is called, but it's like my aunt's something with my aunt is the song that.
Like Don't Tell Aunt Rosie or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah, it's a woman saying don't tell Aunt Rosie, something to that tone.
Mhm.
And then the reveal of the title, holy shit. I look, I wasn't tuned in at that point of like the predictions or whatever. So for me, like seeing Resident Evil and like this reboot that was totally not what you expected Resident Evil to be, oh my god! And also the fact
Yeah.
that again the game came out and was just delivered for me at least on such a hard level or high level. Just such a
Yeah,
fantastic trailer.
that was like a legitimate surprise, I think, to many people, because obviously, like, like you mentioned, people knew the name Kitchen, like that had been
Yeah.
floating around online, and
Right.
people
Yeah.
I think were aware that it was like Capcom horror,
Yeah.
but nobody, I think, at the time was really making the connection that Kitchen was Resident Evil.
Right.
And
Because
it
it's
was
like
like,
it's first person, and the Resident Evil historically had been third person, so it was like, why would they make that shift?
and coming off of Resident Evil 6, which like was, I
Super
think,
action.
critically panned and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's not a great game, and then just to have the complete reversal
Yeah.
watching that trailer, that's definitely another like classic
And
Hallmark one.
I don't remember if this is from E3. It probably is, but like just kind of trailers that stick to my mind while we're on this topic though. Trailers that stick to my mind was the Death Stranding reveal trailer, and where it's just
That was
like,
E3. That was the one where he was walking down the stairs of light. Was the first Death Stranding
oh
trailer.
really? Oh
Mhm.
okay, so it was Game Awards. Okay. Yeah, that moment was fucking like that trailer. I mean, like obviously, like for me, the Kojima walking down the fucking stairway from heaven, totally a highlight of a different moment. But the like in my head, I can like there's like the click sound like of like a tape recorder in that. And I can hear it at the pace that it was at,
Mhm.
So another really really strong trailer. But anyway, also, let's see. Well, here's a question before we move on from this topic or move on to a different kind of angle from this topic. Do you think? Actually, no. Actually, you've. I think we can probably talk about this and hit both topics at once. But
Sure.
do you think in the last, let's say after COVID, right? Let's say in the last 4 years, there has been a reveal that has hit as hard as the one like before, like in the 2010s, those like essentially
Like a we didn't know about it kind of like
yeah,
surprise kind of reveal.
like something that like you saw and you're just like, oh my god, like mom, grab the camera, like shit, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's tricky,
Yeah.
because my gut instinct is to say no. There hasn't been anything that's been that crazy. I think there's a couple of factors that, you know, like lean into why I think that. I think, and correct me if maybe this is like out of pocket or not, not super true, but I feel like the leak culture online has gotten
Oh
way more
man, no,
rampant in the last 4 years
dude,
than it
leak
ever
culture
was.
sucks. I mean, look, like like we cover and we talk about video games, so like we kind of have to stay on top of things. But I am actively staying. Like I'll see like leaked in my, like come up because like I'm in that kind of atmosphere where like I'll like gaming leaks come up on my feed quite often. And so if I see
Mhm.
leaked and I'm just scrolling past it, I mean, like occasionally I'll like address a leak or kind of a rumor, but like
Mhm.
it ruins the experience, man. Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right.
Yeah, I think the surprise is a very key part of the ones that we just spent the last like hour talking about is
Yeah,
like, specifically like what you just talked about with kitchen. Like the surprise I think is a huge element about that.
yeah,
And I think in the last couple years specifically like it's almost like a 50-50 shot if we know every single thing that's going to be at a showcase before,
yeah.
they air. So I think that has to deal with it. There's like certain things that I personally was like looking forward to that like are surprising. Like at the Game Awards a couple years ago when Jeff showed the first trailer for Judas. Like I was like,
Right.
I've been looking forward to that, but I've also been following that development for
Yeah,
like
yeah,
5 years. So it wasn't exactly like a surprise. It was like they have to show it at some point.
yeah.
Like
And
so yeah, I would say like probably I don't think of anything really in the recent years that hits
I'll
any of the
to add on
highs.
to your point about leaks, though, even if the leaks aren't themselves ruining it, I do think there is a factor of like gaming studios essentially announcing games earlier so they don't leak. So like you
Mhm.
kind of like Assassin's Creed, what the hell's it, Shadows. That would have been so much cooler seeing it at an E3 instead of just a random trailer dropping in the middle of the week, But they knew that it was going to leak. Like the moment they start preparing the like all the stuff, like the promo for this game, there's going to be people that'll be like, "Oh, did you anonymous source says that Assassin's Creed is called Shadows and stars a black samurai." And then like the rumor mill goes flying. So to beat that,
Yeah.
I get you have to kind of get ahead of it and
I
announce. But
It's interesting. I think the one company that has pretty solidly battened down the hatches is Nintendo.
yeah,
Like usually those like
ruthlessly.
we get some things that leak. Like obviously there was rumors and stuff about Switch successor hardware like for a long time now, but like they still have games from their first party developers that just like we'll be watching a direct and that will be like a legitimate surprise for me. Now usually those games, you know, they end up being sequels more often than not. It's like new Mario
Yeah,
game or new
yeah,
Donkey Kong or new Zelda. So it's like at a certain point that's not like as exciting,
yeah,
but if you are fans of those specific franchises, then I think those do come as a surprise to people. But yeah, anything out of like Xbox or PlayStation or anything like that, I feel like we know what all these studios are really working on for the most part.
yeah. I mean, for me, the biggest kind of surprise that I can think of in in recent times, I honestly would probably say to Xbox for um, saying they support creative games and then shutting down a game studio that just made a really new, critically successful game.
Right?
That was a
Dude, I
crazy,
can't
crazy
wait to see
surprise.
this Xbox showcase.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this is gonna be
A little bit about the Xbox. So like, there's already a little soured experience. So yeah, we'll see how Xbox plays this one out. But with that said, Nick, anything else we want to talk about regarding E3? I mean, obviously,
um
there's. I figured the one that you'd address during the the
yeah.
E3 showcase was the
The only
non
other
E3.
thing that I really wrote down that you're like kind of hinting at was the Starfield Direct.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
obviously, again, as the big Bethesda fan, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that was exciting to me. And I think, again, like the Fallout 4 presentation, I know some people take issue with, you know, how Bethesda, but basically every aspect of Bethesda,
Yeah,
let's be
pretty much
real.
anything
Like, people take
Bethesda.
issues with
Bethesda.
anything
You could have
that they
just
touch.
stopped it
But
at Bethesda.
yeah, so people have their issues with it. I still think that whenever it's time to show a new Bethesda Game Studios game, I think those presentations are like basically the gold standard of
The
what
direct, yeah,
every
yeah. The
like
Starfield directs were
style of
like,
thing.
I think, in the last 4 years, like a really good example of a in-depth deep dive that never didn't get boring, and it like kind of flushed out kind of different aspects of the game very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it showed a lot, but it didn't feel like spoilery at the
Yeah.
same time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that is a really great example of like a modern like showcase one. But again, like they announced Starfield
Look,
years ago,
I
so
think
it was like
you said it last episode or the episode before that, but yeah, it'd be curious because for me the bar for a direct is that, and this Call of Duty direct we're gonna get, or redacted direct, whatever you want to call it, for Black Ops 6. I'd be curious to see. I mean, look, if it is good, I'll gladly say, oh yeah, that was really good showcase. But will it be that? We'll find out. We'll find out. All right. Look, I know everyone's gotten into the rhythm of, hey, it's the end of the show, so it's gonna be the inbox. But no, there's no inbox, ladies and gentlemen. Not this episode. Instead, I'm going to give you what I'm going to call Play It Now. Now, there's a caveat to that, so there's like a little asterisk, but you have to kind of picture in your head next to the title. But these are games that are either currently, as of when we're live right now, or in the coming days, in the next week or so, will be playable on Steam for Steam Next Fest and, any such way as demos. So these are these are actually from the inbox as well. So I'm going to kind of give you guys the pitch as it came at me, but keep an eye out for these ones if it sounds good to you. Publisher Critical Reflex and developer Finchbird Studio have launched their first public demo for the rhythm-based dungeon-crawling dating sim Freaked Flea Pit. Feel the groove and romance of the underworld in the stylish anime-inspired world of Freaked Flea Pit. Say that 5 times fast. In this new demo, you'll dance your way through the first 2 circles of hell and find the collectibles. Find collectibles to complete quests and battle 2 deadly bosses. Spend time in the Flea Pit's hub, where you can take a shot at love with the bubbly bellboy, feisty Fasaria, and rabid Ruby. So again, that name is Freaked Flea Pit.
I was on board with rhythm-based dungeon crawling, and then
the dating
was
sim
lost at dating sim.
Yeah. That's fair.
I know that those games are super popular, but
it looks cool.
Really
it looks cool. Which, again, any of these games, if it sounds good to you, go check them out. You can play them at no cost. So why not? Now, next one. After the commercial and critical success of Forward Escape the Fold, I'm having trouble reading. Solo dev turned studio lead Christoph Koyard, again, I apologize if I said the name wrong, is back with a game that borrows from its predecessor's ideas, all while building upon every single one of them. If Forward could be called the perfect bite-sized roguelike dungeon crawler, then Pyrene, pronounced Pyrene, as I had just said, could easily be known as the all-you-can-eat buffet of the genre. As Pyrene ramps up to launch in September 2024 and prepares to show off its shiny new demo during Steam Next Fest, June 10th through June 17th. The team just announced that the official release date during the OTK Games Expo. So check it out. Pyrene launches on Steam, PC, Mac in September 2024. But you can check out the demo from June 10th to 17th. Pyrene. Interesting one. Next up, players can find out exactly what troubles the undead in Vampire Therapist from now until June 17th. You might remember this one as the game that I previewed a few episodes ago. Well, you can preview it for yourself. As part of Steam Next Fest, ahead of the game's full launch on July 18th. You can check it out and play it for yourself. What's more is that Little Bat Games, the developer of the game, is excited to reveal in a new trailer that Hades 2 star Sarah Grayson and also Matt Mercer are joining the voice cast of Vampire Therapist. It's getting late, so like now I'm coasting through. These are like my mind's like struggling to read. All right, so 2 more left. An early demo of Hangry, the snack and slash RPG from GamePill, will be featured during the 2 major gaming events this year. There's IGN Live in Los Angeles from June 7th through 9th, and Steam Next Fest from June 10th through 17th. So if you want to get if you want to snack and slash at Hangry, then you can do that on June 10th through 17th. Or if you're, I guess, in Los Angeles, you can play it before that at IGN Live. Lastly, we have Curve Games and Microbird Games today revealed that Dungeons of Hinterberg, a single-player mix of action RPG and social sim set in the Austrian Alps, launches its first playable demo on June 8th, which is 3 days from now. The new demo allows players to experience a full in-game day cycle beginning on day 7. Fans can explore the glacier overworld called the Kalmstein, which includes a gravity-defying dungeon that requires players to solve puzzles and slay monsters while mastering an array of magical abilities before returning to the village of Hinterberg and hanging out with a selection of characters. That's been your play it now. Again, asterisk, because some of them you can't play it right now, but like depending on when you're listening to this, could be right now. Before we wrap it up, though, I just want to say, check out RespawnStation.com. Not just because obviously that's our website, but Nick just put out an interview with Crow Country creative director Adam. I'm waiting for it to load. Vian. I'm hoping I said that right. Vian. Adam answered quite a few questions that we threw at him and about the game, the difficulty, everything like that. Nick, do you have anything to say about it before?
It's just
how do you want to plug it? I'll let you.
Basically, it's an interesting little back and forth about a couple different topics. If you've read our other interviews, like Sri's interview with the creative director of Botany Manor,
right,
we kind of understand the kind of flow we go for. We try to ask some specific gameplay questions, try to ask, both of Botany Manor and Crow Country, we did these interviews after they released, so we get into a bit of the like player reception kind of things, as well as some tidbits about the development process. So definitely give it a read. Crow Country has been hugely successful in the indie sphere, so if you're interested in that game, there's probably something there that you will find insightful. We both
it's definitely, I mean, I'm not just saying this because obviously we're the people making this content, but I do think that our Botany Manor and our Crow Country interviews are both really awesome because, we get these interviews ourselves, to kind of once we send the questions over and then we get the answers back, and looking through the questions, the answers, I was actually like, oh shit, I was like, it was cool kind of reading about the development of some of these games, and obviously we've only done one kind of voice interview so far. We'll have more on the horizon. Just organizing schedules and stuff is always the hard part, but doing these kind of ones, which there will be a lot more written interviews on the way, especially as kind of E3 or fake E3, X E3, whatever you want to call it. It goes on. I'm really excited for kind of how we kind of do these going forward, because the last 2 really strong ones. Highly recommend checking out both of them. But with that said, thank you to everybody who has already checked it out. That article is actually doing it's really well for us, and so I really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot to see articles that we like also do well. So if you even if you've already read it, please share it around to anyone who know. Hey, you like video games? Here's an interview about Crow Country. Check it out. But with that said, thank you to Adam Vian again for taking the time to answer our questions. Nick, I'm glad you got an interview out, buddy. It was about time. You've assisted me with enough It was this is I mean, a lot of our interviews I think Nick and I collaborate on. So it's a very equal-handed
We share the
process.
load.
Yes, yeah, definitely. But I will say I do enjoy that the experience of like putting our heads together. We come up with the questions and then So, but this one, Nick's name, check it out. It's popping off. It's doing good. So thanks for watching, everybody, as always. And until next time, have a good night. Oh, by the way, the next time being in 3 days when Summer Game Fest kicks off. So not next time, as in next week for next episode. So keep that in mind. But with that said, as always, people, until next time, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.